Hi, it's Tammy, and I'm here today with another video for you. This one is going to be about how I make my own encaustic medium. Now, there are a number of stores that you can buy your own encaustic medium that's all pre-made and ready to go. It's a little more expensive than if you would make it yourself, but it's probably a lot less of a hassle. The reason why I like to make my own encaustic medium is because I think I put a little more hardener in it than some of the ones that I've bought in the store, and I think it just gives it a harder finish once it cures. So you only need a few things. We need white beeswax pellets. I like to get the organic ones because they've been filtered. They don't have any bee junk in them. These are by Sky Organics and I get them on Amazon. This is the Damar resin that you need. Hopefully you can see that. This is by R&F and I get that from Dick Blick's. I have one local, so I just bought that size. There's a couple stores like Jerry's Artorama and Cheap Joe's that also sell it, and if you include shipping, I think they might be cheaper, but because I have one local, I didn't have to pay for shipping, so I just bought it there. And I do use a popsicle stick to stir, and then a griddle, like an electric skillet. I just got this one at Walmart. This one doesn't keep its temperature very good, so it's a little temperamental, but you know, you do what you can. So I also have, in the back over here, just a pot that I use to strain any of the impurities out of the wax after I melt it. And it doesn't get all of them, but it does a good enough job for me. And then I go ahead and put it in a little loaf pan, which I just realized I forgot to bring over here. Now, the Damar resin is tree sap. So it's a natural product and it makes the wax hard. So you really need that if you're doing any kind of artwork that you want to last. I use a little yogurt container here to keep it in once I open the package. And I have a smaller yogurt container that I measure it out with. Now, I've bought a couple different types of Damar resin, and sometimes they come in really big chunks and it's hard to melt. So I'll put it in a bag and then put a towel over it and pound it out to kind of crush it. So this time I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to measure it out in my little yogurt container here. And my ratio is I do 2 yogurt containers to 9 of beeswax. So 2 of Damar resin to 9 of the beeswax. And I've already measured that out, which equals 1 pound. So I'm going to go ahead and start that now. So when you open this up, it does come in a bag inside. You don't want to breathe any of this in. I mean, it's just tree sap, but there's a lot of little particles and stuff like that. So these big chunks over here, I might save those and pound those out. So for today, I'm going to go ahead and use these smaller ones on this side. Okay, so there is 1 cup. Try and move these bigger chunks out of here. And there is 2 cups extra. So I'm going to go ahead and stick that in my electric frying pan here, and I'm going to turn this on to about 280 degrees. And then I'm just going to use this little popsicle stick to stir it until it melts. I'm not going to bore you and have you watch that, but it does turn into a hard kind of sticky, gooey mess. But just keep going and keep stirring. And then once it gets solidified, I'll show you when I add the beeswax. So hang on. Okay, so I just want to clarify a couple things. I think I said 280 was my temperature. That was wrong. It says right on the package in case you're unsure, but don't go over 220. And you'll know if you go too high because it'll start smoking. And if it starts smoking, you're way too hot. So this is kind of how it looks as it starts melting down. It just kind of gets really gooey and sticky like a sap. And I can already see that mine has some tree particles in there, but that's why I'm going to go ahead and strain it once it's done. So just keep melting it as you go along. When it gets a little bit more melted than this, I think I'm going to add my beeswax pellets. So I'll show you that in a second. Hold tight. Okay, so as you can see, this is pretty molten. There's this one blob here in the middle that hasn't melted yet. But I'm okay with that. It'll keep melting as I go. So I'm going to start adding some of my white beeswax pellets, just so I can start mixing that in. So the beeswax has a lower melting point than the Damar resin. So the beeswax melting point is only 180 degrees and the Damar resin is 220. So that's why I like to melt the Damar resin first and then introduce some of the beeswax. I feel like it's easier to mix because let me tell you, this I've been melting this already for about 20 minutes. Okay, so this is not a quick process, it's very slow, and as you can see, it's kind of hard to stir and melt and all that good stuff. So I'm just going to keep adding more beeswax as this melts down and keep going until it all blends together. So I just want to show you another clip of how it's melting and how it all starts blending together and turns almost crystal clear. It does have that amber look to it I think it's both from the Damar resin and from the beeswax. But you just want to keep going nice and easy until it all melts together. And at this point I might even add the rest of my beeswax and then just keep melting and stirring it in. Okay, so I just want to finish this stirring as I tell you a couple things now. As you can see, everything has melted. I still have some stuck on my stick here, but I got a couple big pieces of trees and looks like even a little branch or something. So I might just leave that on my stick because I would just have to pick that out anyway. So some people want to know, why do we even need to use encaustic medium? Why can't we just use the wax by itself? And what happens is the wax doesn't get hard enough, and because it doesn't get hard enough, if you even brush up to it, it could just chip right off your piece. So if you want any kind of longevity to your work, and if you're selling your artwork, you obviously do want longevity, you want to make sure you add this Damar resin to your beeswax or get one that's already completed, like a complete encaustic medium. The other thing is, I didn't really talk about safety in this. I'm assuming if you've gotten to this point, you've already watched quite a few videos on safety. Yeah, look at that big black thing. But this is no different. Make sure you have a window open, which I have, and always be safe in whatever you do. So I'm going to go ahead and put this over here, and I've got my pot. This is just cheesecloth that I put around this pot with a rubber band, and I just do that so it doesn't fall in. And I use the same one over and over again. This is so hot, it'll melt what's here, but hopefully all of this will never go through until it gets too gross, and then I gotta switch it out. But for right now, that's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna keep it in there. Now, I try and pour quick, but not too quick, because you don't want it to overflow until it starts to melt through a little bit. Because if you don't pour too quick, you'll get it all over your table. But if you notice, I do have this paper down covering my table, so that's going to catch any of the wax. There we go. That I miss, and I did miss some. Now I have a paper towel here handy, even though this pot is super hot. I'm going to try and pick up any of this wax and bark that's in here, because I do use this pot for other things. I would probably need more than that. Okay, so while this is still quite warm, I'm going to peel off this side, and I'm going to use it as a pourer. And if you can see, I have 3 little containers here that I'm going to pour it right into. And I just got these at Salvation Army, I think I got these. Oh, the other ones are over here, so I'm going to move down this way. And this just makes it easier for me to melt my wax in smaller batches. That's really the only reason. There we go. Okay, so I'm going to let those solidify. Now, if there is any bark that got through, because this isn't foolproof, this pan situation, it will sink to the bottom. So if you wanted to, you could pop this wax out and then scrape off that bottom layer and get all the wood and bark out that way. I don't really have a problem with it. When I get to the bottom, if I see something, I just go in with a paper towel like this and try and wipe it out. So that's about it. So hopefully this will answer any questions you might have, and if you want to try and make your own encaustic medium, this is how you do it. Once that hardens up, you can go ahead and put it on your palette. You can mix it with other colors. You can mix it with mica powders, all sorts of things, and make lots of cool artwork with it. So let me know if you have any questions. Thanks. Have a great day. Bye.